Welcome to the Campfire Passport Podcast. We're here with Mike, and we have Luke on video, and it's going to be great. Is on video the right thing to say there, or should I say like virtually? What do you think, Colin?
I mean, yeah, video call.
At least I didn't say he was on videotape. That would have been weird.
We're going to play it back. We're going to change the reels.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we're here in person, and Luke is not, and Mike's here. But we've got him on mute for the intro, which is fun because we told him no one else can talk on the intro, which is not wrong. No one else talks on the intro, but no one talks today. So anyways, we have a fun podcast. We talk about a bunch of new vehicle stuff. So if you're listening to us and liking the new vehicle stuff that we do, which I don't know if anybody likes or not, but we like, especially Luke and I. So if you like that stuff, you'll like this episode. It'll be a fun one. And I say it in the podcast, but I want to say it again. We have new studio stuff, and it's really exciting, and we're learning how to use it. And so if you like it, tell us. If you don't like it, tell us nicely. Because we're sensitive sometimes. I'm sensitive. I don't know about anybody else. That's all I got. Colin?
We're just posting videos all we can.
Oh, yeah. Like those videos.
Yep. So we've got those. Like and subscribe to those. Also, I will say, if you are a YouTube watcher of the podcast, subscribe on the Spotify or the Apple or whatever, even if you don't listen.
Yeah.
Just subscribe on there. That's
good
fine.
advice.
And vice versa. If you listen on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, because not only will you get the pod that you don't need to watch, but you'll get to see videos that we do that aren't the podcast as well.
Yeah, you get to see those things, or you can just scroll right past us and remember that you want to listen to it on Spotify. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay.
We're just looking for the subscribe. That's really, for the most part.
Just subscribe, please. Okay, so big news item. We have cool new podcast equipment. And I asked you before we had to re-record because we had a problem what your hot take was on the new podcast equipment.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I mean, I think it's cool.
Okay.
I'm enjoying the quality exchange that we've gotten on it. Yeah. So that's nice.
That's nice. Why don't you give us a little bit of button action? Why don't you?
Oh, you want to hear some?
Yeah.
So just as a, if you were to announce that we got new podcast equipment, it would be one of those like, hey, we got new podcast equipment. Isn't that great?
It is.
You know what my favorite thing's going to be if like that never picks up in this stuff. So we're just here listening to applause, but we have no idea if it's happening on the recording.
If Luke can hear it, Luke can hear it, it's recorded.
I don't care. I won't believe it until I see it on the next one.
Well, you won't see it. It's a sound. Just
well, I watch everything on YouTube. So.
Right, but you still can't see it. It's a sound.
I can see you push the button.
But it's a sound.
I can see you.
Oh
can't see
my
sound.
God. All right. What was your...
You can't on water.
Yeah.
That will go really nicely with the the fireworks when you do it.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
Glad to be here. Setting on, so.
I didn't know I did either.
I've been watching that unfold in Zoom meetings for like a month or two.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, somebody will do it like down low too. They'll just give a little thumbs up like this.
Real
and then
secretive.
Just up on the screen. And you're like, oh, that's so good.
Whoops.
Okay, well, I think that's great that we have this new stuff, and I hope it works, and I hope that it sounds good, and I hope that people tell us it sounds good or tell us something, maybe that they don't like it or that...
Even if you don't like it, we're still going to use it.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us constructive
We're a
things
little
like...
deep at this point.
I mean, just the whole premise, not the equipment. The equipment, whatever, it's going to be better, but the premise of the podcast. I hope
we don't like the podcast at all. Just stop. Everybody
the equipment doesn't matter. It's all about the content.
It's all about the content.
That's
except for
not wrong.
Yeah, exactly. But I did say just the other day that it was about the quality. So
Well, yeah, because people are going to turn it off if the quality isn't there.
I do. I've done
Yeah,
it. I've
same.
definitely
Mhm.
listened to things and been like, man, these people are kind of interesting, but I can't listen to
Yeah.
it.
There's a
The
whole
quality sucks.
Yeah.
there's a whole presidential candidate that I can't listen to because of the way he sounds.
I mean, I don't know if any of them sound good.
Well, but Kennedy, the Kennedy Jr. Just because
Oh, man, I can't. We cannot
can't
have
listen
this
to his-
conversation.
No, I'm not even going to talk politics.
Yeah, that's neither.
He talks like, and he's got like a voice thing, and it's not his fault. It's like an illness, but just hearing him talk, I don't even know what his message is. I don't even care. I cannot listen to him talk. So I get it. Yeah, if there's bad quality,
I'm going to defer.
To who?
I don't know. Luke, take it over.
Yeah.
People that aren't here.
I got
Oh
nothing.
man, damn it! All right,
There's a podcast I listen to that has a lot of background noise, and you would probably think
Okay.
that it's
Right.
not
I
We
get
talked about this before.
there's a shtick, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Our shtick is not bad quality; it's bad quality commentary on so okay quality audio. That's us.
Mm.
Yeah,
Well,
We're very,
we
very-
may have just made the jump from okay quality audio to good quality.
Ooh,
Not
wow.
great.
But
I'm not going
good?
to give it a great or an amazing yet, but
Hey, I'll
I
take it.
think we might have made it to good.
Can we still
at
be
this point?
Can we still be bad commentary though? Because I don't think
well,
that's gonna make.
You're here, so
It's gonna
yes.
take a while.
Zing.
Hey, yeah, where's your button?
But there we
Yeah.
go.
There you
go.
Man, we just upped the cheese level tenfold.
I know we really got to stop. We can't overplay that, or else people are just gonna be like, "Fuck you guys."
I don't know.
I really enjoy it.
That's good.
It adds some pizzazz.
Yeah.
So, let's see, I'm trying to think about anything that's current that's come out that we should talk about before we get into any sort of main topic stuff. And we run into this every once in a while.
You mean
What?
Besides the two big Rivian?
Oh, well, that
announcements?
was the thing.
3, kind of.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Hey, Luke, why don't you take it away on Rivian
Oh, wow.
news?
Well, you said that you couldn't think of any other news
I know.
topics.
Well,
so
I actually-
thought I'd just jump in there.
Thank you.
So Rivian announced
You gotta stop clicking your
two very.
You're clicking your mouse,
Oh.
and it's just
Oh yeah. Well, that's because I'm looking at the data that I'm about
Yeah.
to. Although there's not really a
Gotta
lot
pull it
of data to go over. They don't really give a lot of like specs on things, so some of it's speculative. But yeah, they announced the R2 and the R3 and the R3X, which is like golf
Extreme.
country on steroids.
Yeah. Delta
Uh,
Integrale.
Mm-hmm. Delta.
Yeah, a little bit of Lancia Delta, a little bit of Lada Niva.
It's a fantastic.
Very, very, very
Fantastic.
cool, very exciting little product. I imagine it's going to be like Ionic 5 size, so it's like bigger than it
So
looks.
someone
Kind of.
Someone just had a comparison that showed it in scale next to a Golf, and it's really close to like a 5-door Golf size. It's really small.
New Golf's pretty big car too,
relative.
compared to like a Mark II, or a Mark
right,
I.
but still,
But I guess it's
Um,
probably Ioniq 5 is long. Is the weird thing about it. So
Yeah, it's just hard to tell because of the proportion.
oh,
Then there's R2 that's like a Macan size thing if you consider it a luxury car. I guess maybe Forerunner sized or bigger than a Wrangler, I imagine.
it's slightly smaller than a 4Runner. I did a little bit of looking
Okay.
because I'm super, 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 super interested in them.
Well,
because
Forerunner's
it's awesome.
a new Forerunner.
New
though,
4Runner.
which
Yeah.
is basically the size of a 100 series.
Yeah, current 4Runner, it's like a couple inches smaller in every dimension,
Mhm.
basically. I think it might be the same width, but it's
By current Forerunner, you mean the Forerunner that's 20
Yes.
years old?
Yeah.
current and past for quite a while.
Okay.
Quick stat.
I just couldn't tell because I couldn't find any like hard specs.
Oh,
on it.
they have them. It's hard to find, though. Quick fact, Ioniq 5 is 14 inches longer, it looks like, than the Mark 7 Golf 4-door. So,
Okay.
Which is probably the same as the 2-door.
14 inches longer?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're long. They're weird. Yeah. But I mean, it's
rear
a
seat leg room, probably.
exactly. It's an EV like skateboard platform scenario. I think that helps that out.
yeah, it seems to have long
packaging.
doors on the
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
The styling doesn't make it look that.
It kind of shrinks it a little bit. And then I think the R3 is probably. I think you're right though. I think R3 is probably similar size though. I I don't want to pull the thing up to try to find it now, but there's been somebody that's made this like chart of both the R2 and the R3 compared to other vehicles. So R2 is really similar in size to a Tesla Model Y, but obviously boxier, so different interior volume. And it's also slightly smaller than a 20-year-old 4Runner. It's probably the same size as a 21-year-old 4Runner if you really think about it. So it's super cool though. And then the specs that you are probably trying to look up right now are pretty. They're kind of all over the place, but basically the headline is R2 and R3 share the same platform, so everything underneath is the same, even though the R3 is smaller. There's single motor, dual motor, and tri-motor options. They're supposed to have 280 miles of range at the lowest spec or something, or 270.
It says 300 plus.
I saw that, and then I watched an interview where the CEO said the base model, like base, they're going to say like 270, 280 is kind of what they're talking about. But they did start with all the marketing material that said everything was 300 plus.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll change that. They've changed a bunch of stuff, but
it's also 2 years out, and that tech advances so rapidly that it wouldn't surprise anybody to see 350 by the time it hits.
Counterpoint: Cybertruck was supposed to be 500 miles, and here it is.
Yeah, here we are.
Consider who you're talking about.
That guy that has that.
You mean
company.
the overpromise and underdeliver?
Consider which car company you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'll leave the rocket company out of it. But.
So, other interesting news I just saw today, speaking of this, is that apparently Rivian patented R1X. And there's a couple like technical drawings that floated around today of like a beefy R1 truck. Which is kind of cool. Like it looks, basically think like Raptor Rivian.
Oh man.
Which to me,
isn't that basically the new Hummer? Isn't that what that essentially
that thing is? Huge. Have you seen the couple of them that are running around town?
Yeah, it looks like you just taped them.
Hummer's a 3/4
massive. Yeah,
yeah, it is. I mean, it's basically like a 3/4 ton truck and a full size van together.
Like you just put an extra refrigerator or two on top of whatever F-150 you were driving.
Yeah, we talked about we were talking about Spike's Car Radio. The Johnny Lieberman thing that gets me, that I've said a million times, is we're not saving the world with 800 horsepower pickup trucks, and that's every time I see an H2, and I know, it's H1T, that's what it is. An H1, I know it applies to Rivian, but every time I see the new Hummer EV, I just think, man, saving the world with 1,000 horsepower trucks, great.
Yep.
Sure, it's the
it's one less half-ton gas pickup on the road.
I mean, money is for
and most of the buyers are people that aren't using pickup trucks to go to construction sites.
Well, they're mostly people who weren't using pickup trucks anyway, though.
Yeah.
So that's an unfortunate,
but they still
pull into that space. But yeah, I think that having like the R2 sized rig is going to be wildly popular. I almost put down a deposit on one because. If I have a business vehicle and all that other stuff, and it doesn't line up with when my lease ends for the next one, I'd have to figure out something to do for like a year and wait, and so it doesn't pan out for that. But once the next lease, whatever vehicle I run, is up, I'm going to get an electric vehicle if it can have 300 miles range like that. That's plenty for me to work in Central Oregon.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's just makes more and more sense every time you look into it, but.
I'll have the truck paid off by the time R3 hits, so I might get rid of the Miata and have that be my like commuter or whatever. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think it's super cool. It blew the internet up. Like R2 was well received. People seemed to like it, and that's great, but it was kind of the boring news. But when you looked at R3X specifically, people just went, oh my God, this is the thing.
Yeah, it was kind of the stole the show. So
yeah.
What's the Tesla Roadster? But it just might actually get made.
Yeah. But it's the Tesla Roadster. If the Tesla Roadster was $50,000 and not
real,
and also real,
right? Not in space.
Good on Rivian for not sending it to the moon.
Yeah.
So that was nice. Nice marketing play there.
We created a whole new asteroid and just left it up there, which is great. It's good for people.
I don't know. I think they're both good. I think that it shows a lot of promise for the company. I hope they make it and do well. I'm not like I don't want to be financial doom and gloom guy, but like they seem to be trying to figure it out. But I did also read a counter article that they have some insane amount of cash on hand. So although they've laid people off and although they've stopped one of their assembly plants from going, it might be more of a plan for the future than pull the ripcord kind of scenario. So I don't know. Like I'm not so entrenched in it that I know completely, but I do think it's interesting to see a brand new car company like try in 2024. Like, that's a different thing, and that's something that we get to see with EV manufacturers. Like I don't think. Can you guys think of any like 90s or early 2000s manufacturers that started?
No.
No. And like all the small manufacturers have been like, dip their toes in the U.S. market off and on.
Sure.
And off and on.
Yeah, and there's maybe some like, revamp of Bugatti and things like that are like kind of these weird regions.
Yeah, that's a different thing. Was backed by Volkswagen.
Yeah,
exactly. Now it's Rimac.
So to have like new car companies, Tesla is a good example, even though it's that guy, right? Like whatever. It is an interesting thing to see a U.S. manufacturer start, relatively well succeed, and do fine, right? Like they're figuring it out. There's some growing pains. There's some things that suck. There's some things that are great, and that's the way it is. And Rivian, similar thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you could consider, Lexus, Infiniti, Saturn. You could consider those, but they're all backed by, they're all partners of other major manufacturers, and it's just a new car line, not a new manufacturer.
Yeah, and a lot of those are,
Rivian and Tesla are pretty, and many others. Canoo and Fisker and all of the with varying levels of success. Rivian and
Lucid.
Tesla certainly have, Lucid.
Yeah, and these are companies that probably to the credit of EV design being potentially a little simpler, have gotten some really cool products off the ground. Sorry, I interrupted you. What were you
no,
saying?
I was just going to say that the companies like Saturn and Lexus, though, aren't building new cars either. They're just revamping versions of a platform that exists.
Yeah.
Like Saturn doesn't have a single vehicle that they made in the 90s that wasn't already a GM, Chevy, Opel, whatever product that they came and
Honda.
Just branded. Yeah.
Because they had Honda engines in some of them.
And some of them.
But Saturn did have Lexus is just a Toyota, right?
Yeah.
Like that's it. There's no difference. They just brought the Crown and the what's the
SC300,
Celsior, and the Soarer. Like those cars, they brought them here.
Use their American
and they
names.
Just they made them Americanized by calling them LS and SC, and that's it. But like Saturn did have like the plastic body stuff, which like it's neither here nor there if it's good or not, but it was unique to them. But it's still not the same. Like Luke's point stands, and that's the point you're making too. Like it's GM. Like GM could come up with 10 companies, and I wouldn't necessarily call them new companies. Like it's just GM.
No,
but Rivian is Rivian. They're not backed by Ford. Like they're just Rivian. So that's really cool.
And they seem to have like a I don't know, a handbook about their goals and how to achieve them more than just 100% profit too. Because when he was up there giving the talk about the R2 and the R3 and all that other stuff, there's also talk about creating community spaces, and there's also talk about we're trying to create something that will be useful for our children's children. And so I also think that that's kind of a cool stance, whether you're in the same boat or in the same camp or not, having a company that has like clear cut, these are what we stand for, and they seem to be doing it.
Yeah.
Even though they're statistically, their community centers have all been a loss of profit.
Oh, I'm sure.
But they're still making them, and and I don't know how useful they are in the places they are because we don't have one here, but it seems like that's
the car
they're willing
itself,
to spend it.
They're losing money on too. So, call a spade in that. Like they are losing money to hopefully break even anyways, which is what a new car company or a new tech company, right, would probably do in that scenario. I don't know. They seem to be cool. Like,
and they're uniquely both.
It is, no kidding. It is some kind of woo-woo stuff with those that It's interesting though, because they have this like vision that I think a lot of corporations have, and I hope they're doing better than others, and I think they are. But like, even Ford, like Jim Farley, he like that guy deserves a lot of credit for becoming the face of Ford and doing really well with it.
Yeah.
And I think he embodies a little bit more corporate vision than others have in the past. And I, obviously, like, I didn't live in any of the other Ford and Edsel days to know if those guys were any different or better, but he's doing really well with that, and he's become the face of that company in a way that, kind of like what you're saying to the Rivian credit is that, there's some help there. So I think that's good.
No, I agree. And that's the same kind of thing. That's kind of what I was liking it to, was like the 60s and 70s era.
Sure.
Ford was like, they had a thing, and it was their racing team, and they had
Race on Sunday, buy on Monday.
Yeah, exactly. But they had kind of an ethos that they would follow, and you knew that that's what you were getting from those. You knew that was the goal of those cars, right?
Yeah.
And it used to be a lot more prevalent. Now it's just like, Chevrolet, please buy one.
You rented one.
Yeah.
Why don't you buy it?
Yeah, Ford, it exists.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing because I'm the least, except for Colin, probably the least America fanboy that there is sometimes, and we've talked about this. I actually just made a comment about it today, like growing up with a little bit of counterculture and things like, I don't mean to like disparage the like patriot thing. Like, I think that's a honorable thing to be, but I've never been super proud of American cars. In fact, I've often made fun of American cars post 70s, basically, because look at the Taurus SHO is kind of cool, I guess, in a way, but
it has a Japanese motor.
Garbage, and we all know it's garbage. And there are British cars that are garbage, but the Golf of the same era is amazing. And so, like, to me, or the Japanese cars of that time, like, are so cool. And so I got so hung up on that I just became the like, American cars, if it's not big, if it's not made in the 60s or before, I do not care about it. Unless it's a truck. Trucks have always had their own little special bit. But, there's like an oddly American thing about a couple of these companies, Rivian and Tesla specifically, that is really kind of cool to watch unfold. And I think, weirdly enough, because EV is such a polarizing issue, which it shouldn't be, and I don't think it's an issue. It's just a polarizing thing. People
I don't think
are quick to not jump on that Patriot bandwagon, which is real weird.
Yeah, well, and I think I'll speak for my people.
We're going to speak for the rest of the Americans that aren't calling.
Those American people. No, I think the issue with EVs that most people that I seem to see, and I here, there, or the other way, it's the requirement of the EV. So it's the government side of EV stuff that people are pushing back against. It's the all vehicles must be EV by 2030 in California, right? The people are like, what the hell? I didn't ask for that. I didn't choose that. That's the thing people push back against. And unfortunately, it has soured the market for a lot of folks. And I never felt that way. I don't like the regulation, but I still don't hold that against the car, if that makes sense. But that I think is an unfortunate step that is going to take a while to get over for a lot of people. And I think that there are ways going forward to have both ICE cars, have hybrid vehicles, have all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
Because you look at some of these circumstances with like the Jeep 4xX rig, like that's really cool.
Yeah.
If I was in a position to buy a new JL right now, I would guaranteed buy a hybrid without question. Because not only does it do the cool miles per gallon, it also does the cool battery thing where I can go camping and use that battery as part of my power supply. And it does the cool, like, it'll do like 40 something range. Yeah, exactly. It just does a lot of cool things. So I think that the Jeep Ambassador kind of setup, like I'm talking about there, will do nicely. The Ford was the Eco Boost that they have.
Oh, the Power Boost.
Power Boost is going to do a great job of that because people are using it.
I don't feel like they're selling very well.
I've seen a lot of them in like construction sites and stuff.
You see more construction sites than I do.
Yeah,
Luke,
well,
bring it up.
doing-
Tell me how many Power Boosts were sold this year. Oh, he's gone.
He's gone.
Dang it.
we just keep losing him.
I'm gonna
He's
look
in a snowstorm, everybody. So Luke is coming to us from questionable power and internet that comes and goes. So don't judge him for the times that we think he disappears, that you might see him the whole way. But I do see people using them in construction sites in more rural settings because they have battery power in such a way that it can do like all kinds of charging and all kinds of like actual construction work. I watched a guy plug an air compressor, like a regular 2-gallon air compressor, into the back of his truck and run it for the whole time I was doing a home inspection for like 2.5 hours. And it's like, that's impressive. Like, that's cool. Yeah. But it also has a gas engine for him to get home when he uses the whole battery on the construction site. Yeah. And so like that, I think, continues to bridge that gap. And hopefully more of those sort of things keep coming out.
Yeah, it's there's some conflicting info on the internet. So anyways, I think it's a good idea though, and we've talked about this 100 times now. I think that currently in the state that we're in right now, not Oregon, but the state of the world.
Yeah, because Luke's in Denver.
Yeah.
.org.
.org.
I think that
.org, man.
Beautiful callback.
I think that God, that's good. I think that plug-in hybrid is kind of the thing right now, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of opinions about the actual electrification of our world and how it works. And I think right or wrong, here we are. And I think it'll be okay for most people in the end because it'll have to be, right? Like that's just a thing that people are going to have to deal with. And I don't think that the things that are out there as far as goals right now will be easily hit. So it's going to be a moot point at some point.
Yeah.
What I really don't want to get into today.
The grid. He wants to talk about the grid.
God, I really don't want to get into that because we talk about boring. But on the more exciting side of it, I don't love the politicization, the making it politize. Yeah, I'm going to
politicize. Nah, fuck.
I don't
you
like
ruined
how
it for me now.
You had it right. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't like how it's
the
become
politics.
A political issue.
No one gets it.
And I don't like how it's divided people, especially people that are in our world. Like I spend time around car people all the time, and you guys do, and it's just such a weird thing that I don't want.
Yeah.
I think that's the easiest thing for me to say. I just don't want it. I don't like that. I don't want people to be arguing about a thing that I think is silly because it's technology that's moving us forward.
Yeah.
In performance and in an economical sense and in an efficiency sense, and like it's stupid. So anyways.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I was making. Like I agree. There's such cool things. There's such cool things happening, and so many people are just blind to them because that the lightning, the Ford can't tow nothing, and blah, and they just get all about it because they were already mad about electric cars. And you're like, well, I think that if you look at the Model T, you're like, that
changed
thing
a lot of
didn't
things.
do great out the box, except that it was the best thing that was available at the time. That's all these electric cars are. These are the best things available at this time, and I don't think they're going to get worse from here. No. I think they're going to just get better.
So speaking of electric cars that are only going to get better, we've decided to talk about mid-sized trucks today.
A lot of
well, that Toyota has a hybrid option, right?
Is it plug-in? A hybrid option, yeah.
Is it plug-in hybrid, or is it just?
I would like to know why it sounds like a Kubota tractor, but
because all new cars kind of sound bad if they're not
Four cylinders.
American V8s. Unfortunately,
use them all.
That's like the only. I guess supercars still sound good. Even hybrids.
I was doing my homework for the topic.
God!
Watched that video, and it literally just sounds like a Kubota.
It's not good. It's not good. So what we're going to talk about at no one's request other than Jesse's is we're gonna give
the 13th gen Hilux.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The four of us are going to give our take on the current mid-sized truck market because it's applicable to all of us and overlanding in general and off-road.
Well, and I'm really excited because this is the time that Colin and I have like the most in common.
Oh, geez.
Because we agree on the most with in regards to one specific truck, which I think is very good, and I think he also hopefully thinks is pretty good.
And they're talking
He's
about
had
the
it.
2024 Toyota Tacoma.
Yep, the broken one. No,
So I think basically what Jesse's idea was that we would all give our top, whatever it's top 4.
I think there's only
We're
4
gonna
of
count
them.
There's only
range?
4.
Yeah,
Well,
We're going to count the Frontier. Luke?
5. Yeah, of course I would count the Frontier.
Oh, well, we know Luke's going to have the
it's been
Frontier.
around for a while, but I actually think it.
I
looks,
haven't
no, the
I
newest
haven't driven New Frontier, so I really
Well, you
don't know.
drove an old one, right? So
Yeah, but I mean, it's new. The frame's the same, but like suspension's new, the body's new, the engine's new, the transmission's new. Like,
I think it looks great. That new
it looks pretty
Frontier,
good.
I think it looks.
I think
great.
it looks great, but I haven't
I think they
been up
made
close
it-
and personal with one. So
Doesn't,
Yeah.
So
doesn't do it. to
I
me,
will
but-
say, so what we're going to get into, so I can let me finish.
All right,
What we're going to
no.
get into is Jesse wants us
Let
to
him
give
finish.
a ranking.
This week on the podcast, Sean finishes.
Whoa.
I'm already done.
Oh, wow. That was
No.
fast.
Jesse wanted us to give like a ranking, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if we have to do that as much as we need to round robin the idea, basically.
Yeah, I don't know that we need the full
No.
rankings, but I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
that each one of us will be happy to tell you what their
Which
favorite is.
which one the favorite is. Well, I want to start with, because I know you guys are dorks about these, and so is our second to last podcast guest. The Colorado and the Canyon, the newest version, is a really, really, really good looking rig. I
Yes.
just saw ZR2 in person like
Yep.
2 days ago, and I was like, oh man, that is a nice looking truck. Like it really, GM has gotten out of their own way somehow
Yeah.
and made an interior that looks nice and a
Mhm.
truck that looks nice. And not saying that the previous generation is not a good looking truck, because I think overall the truck is okay looking. I think the interior is so, it's like the Chevy SS to me. It exists and it's nice enough, but God, it's not good. It's
Really?
fine. Yeah, I just don't love them.
Well,
I lived in
if you
one-
compare it to the first gen Colorado,
Yeah.
it is
Oh, yeah.
leaps and
It's so
bounds
much better than those. Those things are basically like a Pontiac Grand Am inside.
Yeah,
I put 30,000 miles in one of those Colorados that you're not super stoked about, and I really enjoyed it. But it's not. But I'm a utilities guy. I'm not a design or whatever. And everything was accessible. Everything worked well. Every time I wanted to change the temperature, change the radio, do any of the things that I need to do while being inside a truck, everything was there, and it was very convenient.
Sure.
So I got to give them credit for that. Now, it might have been harder plastics and not soft touch stuff and all that, but the seats were comfortable. The heated seats worked great. The climate control stuff was very intuitive, and it functioned very well.
I mean,
But-
have you ever had a climate controller you can't figure out how to work, though?
No, but some of them suck
Okay.
more. My
That is
Volkswagen
true.
is not
Mm.
better.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
but
a
it's-
the
Volkswagen.
Range Rover was
Okay,
a little
Range
confusing
Rover's
sometimes.
excluded here.
Once you figured
We're
it
talking
out.
about things the Queen drives. so-
Excuse me,
drove.
sir. Would you like to change the temperature? I have no idea what accent that was, and I regret it completely.
Yeah, it was bad.
But yeah, I really loved that truck. It did. I've said it before, and I will say it again. But I built an LS Dana 44 swapped full locked TJ, and my Colorado on 33s did everything my TJ did without nearly as much drama.
What are you talking about? I've seen the TJ in the snow.
Well, that's
No.
yeah.
Not the same.
We'll stop the
That's
snow
not
because
exactly
I
a
had
fair comparison.
I had-
Well, but you
I
can't
had
start the
35s.
comparison with it did
It's
the
everything,
same thing.
yes.
Fair.
Yeah, okay. Everything but the snow, I guess, if you want to be Sean. But honestly, the TJ got stuck in the snow, and the Colorado did pretty good in it
No,
every time. So
Here's the
either
thing.
way.
the Colorado
Not the same.
was a great vehicle, and Collins is going to be great, and other people's Colorados are great.
I
And
think it's
that's
great
fine.
right now, Sean. What are you talking about?
But that's fine. But it's different, right? Like that's always the thing. Like it's 2 foot more wheelbase, way smaller, sort of smaller tires, like not less power, probably about the same power.
Yeah.
But
308.
No, we know for sure it's as so the Colorado and the V8 when it was still in the Tahoe raced on the highway when we came back with it, remember?
oh yeah,
And it was the Colorado that won.
yep, definitely, yes,
Yeah.
definitely a better transmission.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably part of it. Yeah. Anyways, I don't. I'm just
Good gearing, lockers front and rear.
Stock rig, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
As a starting point,
Absolutely.
it's really hard. Like we've spoken on before. Really, the only starting point that you could argue would be better off-road is the Gladiator. That's it. It's Gladiator ZR2.
Yep.
But if you're talking preference of what you like or whatever more,
that's where everything
obviously
else
that's
comes
where
in.
everybody's.
It really comes down to which one drives better on the highway, solid axle or IFS.
Oh no, we can't talk.
wow.
and I guarantee you that solid axle Gladiator will ride. No, wait. No, I was picking two specific vehicles, and I stand by what I said. If you want to know more about it, listen to our other podcasts where I argue specifically.
We're gonna put Mike in a blind study with a blindfold
I'll know by the
between a
seats.
Super Duty and a Power Stroke.
I'll know by the
and
seats.
a Silverado, and we're going to see what happens.
Well, and you know what's I'll give you a little side note to that. I'll give another shout out to one of our loyal listeners who has sent his mails to us and whatnot. He was not happy with Mike and his IFS
Good.
talking. So
Who is it?
and he's a full size guy. He's got a full size GMC. And
Interesting.
so
How come I never heard about this? I will argue
'Cause he
specifically
messages
to
me.
people.
Why didn't he email secret RSVP
Yeah,
at
come on,
gmail.com?
you know my email.
yeah, all he has to do is email if he wants to argue.
Hey,
Oh my God.
I'll stand by what I said, and it's what my butt feels and what I believe. And God bless America, and no, and I agree with you though, Colin, because the Gladiator has front and rear lockers, the Colorado has front and rear lockers, and they're literally the only two in the game that have that available.
Yeah.
Past that, you're rear locker only in the midsize truck game, and it's
No, I think I'll quickly put this out there. I prefer if we're not talking about the current generation, actually, if we're talking about your truck versus a Tacoma versus a Ranger, basically, I prefer the Tacoma based on looks, feel, and that's it.
How do you feel about the seating position though? I still hated it.
I don't mind it. It to me, even though
I
I have a Land
Still can't
Cruiser
do it.
that sits higher up, right? I don't have the sit on the
Yes.
floor thing. But every time I've driven a third gen Tacoma, I don't mind them. It to me is just not a deal breaker, and I understand it is for some people, and that's fine. It might be. I have a taller torso and not as long of legs. So
This
that might
week
be
on the
stubby legs,
podcast,
huh?
we hear about how
Not
Sean's
stubby.
legs are stubby.
My legs are average.
Oh, is that what you told you?
That's what everybody tells me, at least.
This week,
And so I don't know. It might be a comfort thing. Like I'm totally willing to do that, and I'm also totally willing to admit that it's subjective. I think styling wise, it's way better. That's it.
That's the
Hardware
subjective
wise,
part.
yeah. Hardware wise,
Yeah, hard disagree.
well, that's fine.
Thank you.
yeah,
just don't-
3 out of
just don't like
3 out of 4 podcast guests agree that Sean's wrong.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, Jesse will back him up on the looks,
I'm
unfortunately.
the eighth
Steve
gen.
does too, and probably Aaron.
Uh,
I don't know. I mean, you might be right on Aaron, but
All
Steve,
we're doing is admitting that there's a bias. Like
Steve has one. Yeah.
I'll give you a little behind the scenes that I have gotten from both
Oh
Jesse
my God,
and
Steve's
Steve.
pumping you up,
No,
saying,
no.
"Oh, I want a Colorado."
No, it's not that he wants one. It's that they both could have gotten a ZR2 when they bought their Tacomas, and they both have said they probably should have gotten.
It's just
a
because
ZR2.
mechanical, though. It's not. It's not looks.
Steve
You mean the-
specifically
the
has
important
taken
part
some
of
shots
vehicles.
at the Tacoma lately, and it's been very funny to me.
That is true.
As he's building his, yeah. Steve's putting a good amount of money and time and effort into his Tacoma, and it's just a little bit like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, this is kind of,
I think they're fine.
yeah.
And I don't have one, so it doesn't really matter. I got no horse in
I've
this
had
race,
both.
I mean,
I've had both. If you want to
I
really
only
talk to a
recently
guy,
have only
Now,
had one. So
I would love to rewind and talk to Mike post Tacoma or during Tacoma pre ZR2.
Mhm.
Mike really liked his Tacoma,
I did everything but the seating position.
and then eventually he didn't have the Tacoma, and like a lot of things that Mike does, we talked about this on the podcast with Harrison. Then he doesn't like it anymore. These things are terrible.
I never I don't dislike it. I just think that the Colorado is better because I had it next and I made that choice. But I really did enjoy my Tacoma, except for the seating position. I never was a fan of it. I had it and thought I was going to be fine with it. It was one of those things where you're like sitting in a brand new truck and you're like, I can change it. I can make it work for me. I can change me for it. And it didn't pan out, and we ended up selling it, which was for a multitude of reasons, and it worked out great because we sold it, and
Absolutely.
we sold it for essentially less than a lease payment would have been.
Yeah.
But having had the Colorado afterwards and being able to compare the two, the Colorado I prefer in every aspect. I appreciate the way it looks more, especially when I had my sticker package on it. I thought that it looked really good for my business.
You did have a good livery on there. I'm not gonna lie.
It's a good livery. It worked, and our new livery would have been better.
That was it. But you didn't have one on the Tacoma, and it was probably partly because of its color.
It was the wrong color. Yeah,
yeah, but
it has to be white for the business.
It would have looked fine. But
my dad had a Tacoma with the livery, though.
It was the same color as everyone else's.
Yeah, it's sand.
Tacoma,
but my dad had a 4-door Tacoma of the same generation with our livery, and it didn't look as good. I'll get some pictures and I'll send them to the group. I didn't think it looked as good.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember seeing it, but I don't remember if it
But
looked good.
I felt more comfortable in the seat. I drove it for more miles overall, and I can tell you without a doubt that it was a better vehicle off-road.
For you.
Off-road, no.
Just kidding.
100%.
Off-road, yeah.
Shock system, having a front locker, having better sliders. It has better ground clearance in different areas. It has better stock skid plates. I mean, they're not great, but they're still better than the Tacoma was. And so,
but like, here's the thing. Like, here, my only. I'm not even gonna try to argue. It's not an argument. It's just a comment about this, right? Like, the ZR2 is better than the Tacoma off-road in stock form, just like a
Gladiator is better than a ZR2.
Yeah, Gladiator. There's just like there's certain things that are like just because of the way it's set, and because we just had this conversation, right? Like we're not normal new car buyers or new car buyers at all half the time, or 95% of the time. We are a little bit more the people that are going to buy something to modify it. So we're more likely as a group, even the four of us just sitting here, to buy something that doesn't have everything and add the things in the way we want, right? And so I'm not saying you're wrong, because you're right.
Hey, that's a new one.
You are right.
I don't usually
if you head-to-head compare a 2016 TRD off-road Tacoma to a 2018 CR2 Colorado, there's no comparison.
Why would there be a 2-year difference?
I don't know, because I think that's what Mike's was.
That's the two difference. Yeah.
Wow. Look at that. I pay attention.
Yeah,
but it wouldn't have mattered because a 16 would be the same.
Yeah. But still, I agree with you there. The only thing that I'll throw out is you put the Tacoma on 37s by cutting a bunch of body mounts and having this ridiculous amount of effort. You do less with the Colorado to get to the same spot, and the Colorado on 37s is still going to have a front locker.
Sure.
And so
you put one on your Tacoma, which is doable.
Which is another $2,500 worth of time and effort and money that you don't have to do to the other rig, and you don't have to cut body mounts to be on 37s. You could
say the same thing for 35s, actually.
Yeah,
it doesn't even have to be 37s.
So at a certain point,
where the ZR2 is closer to the Gladiator in that sense, where the tire size, being able to just instantly fit large tires,
it's right there,
is pretty close. Again, very close, but not quite Gladiator level, which is kind of like we've established.
It's in the middle.
Basically where they're at.
Yeah.
So to bring it to the conversation that we were supposed to be having, which is about the newest one.
The newest one even looks better, though.
It does look better.
Oh, God.
I think that fixed all the problems that I had with the old one. I think it looks better. I think the drivetrain options are more interesting. And it looks better also. Did I mention it looks better?
Wow. And the interior looks better.
Canyon, holy Jesus, it looks way better.
My issue with the Canyon, and I know that even the AT4 is supposed to be the same as the ZR2.
Yeah.
I don't think that it has the same tire fitment capabilities.
They like square out
due to the way the fender is shaped.
It's got like a weird.
I could be wrong.
It's a D. Isn't it like a D shape?
I can't say for sure, but just from outward looking at it, you look at the shape of it and it looks like a confined space in comparison. So I don't know that tire fitment thing will be the same with those.
Yeah.
But either way, it's essentially the same, slightly different looking.
So what's Luke's opinion? Because he has the vehicle that
'Cause he has Gladiator.
he put
Yeah.
37s on right off the lot,
Yeah.
and he has way more everything.
Well, what's my opinion on what? Like, am I ranking the vehicle? Are we actually doing the ranking, or?
Yeah, Gladiator, Colorado,
Well, he
Tacoma.
agrees with Mike and I.
No, I would go Gladiator,
So would I.
Yeah. That's what
Canyon AT4X,
Yep. Except the
because
grill.
I just like the styling, and I would go for the like nicer truck. I would go for the nicer interior and all that on the GMC.
Fancy Luke.
Then the
we
ZR2.
drive a Jeep for too long.
That's not fancy.
He's a
Need the
Volvo
fancy
guy,
stuff.
wasn't he? For a long time.
Then probably Frontier, then Ranger Raptor. and let's
I
put
knew he
Tacoma.
was going to
I
do
would put Tacoma last,
that. Yeah, Tacoma last. Wow.
mostly because I don't care about it. I just do not care.
It feels like it's out of spite.
Yeah, it is. It's very biased and it's very much out of spite, and it is what it is. I won't hide any bias that I have. It's
Yeah,
fine.
that's fine. I appreciate that you know that you have bias. I do too, and that's why I would rank the Tacoma much higher than the Frontier. But I think I'd still follow the first two. I really would. It would be, it'd be Gladiator, and then I think Canyon over Colorado. But I would just pin them as the same thing.
Yeah,
And
I
then
think
it would
that's
be
the same.
The more I'm looking at it, though, the grill on the AT4 is just this big, chunky shark mouth thing.
Yeah.
And the Colorado does a good job. They have a center bar.
Those squinty eyes, though.
Well, they both do.
Yeah.
They both have the squinty eyes, but I think the center bar on the Colorado is just nicer looking. And that's just me getting into the weeds on something there. But I will say it does look like the Colorado wheel arches are more rounded overall.
Mm-hmm.
They have the same kind of front end on the AT4, but then it like D-notches down, which I agree. My Colorado, I went from the 31-inch stock tires to 33-inch with, it was like $100 kit so that I could retain full, like mud guards. And it was through, bought it at the Chevy dealership, but it was like through AEV. It was super easy. You just cut like two things and bolted this thing on, and you could fit 33s without any other issues, without any other touching, rubbing, or anything. So I think that's a nice part about it. And I know that with Steve, he was rubbing on 33s with a 2-inch lift on his Tacoma last time we were out.
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember.
Here's the thing about rubbing. I don't like that comment.
It's
I
racing.
hate when people talk about rubbing. Oh, my truck.
This week
rubs
on the podcast,
33s.
Sean rubs too
We're
much.
also a lot different.
My truck
Our-
rubs too.
Yeah, our group
All the
is
time.
a lot.
We're different though.
We're a lot different
I
from
know.
the average user.
Well, that's what I'm
once
saying.
again.
and I worked
Every
out of
time
mine.
someone says, "Oh man, when I go full lock and reverse, my 35s rub on my
Mhm.
truck," I'm just like, "Great." When I go full stuff on something, my 37s rub. Dang.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it's
From the
not-
guy who's ripped
they're
off
fine.
all of
But
his
again,
bumpers and his flares.
It's,
I know.
We're
Yes.
different.
We're different.
So you can't-
but I just
The point is that fitting larger tire, because off-roading, or not even necessarily off-roading, just gravel roads to go camping and things like that, people want to upgrade tires.
Yeah.
And when you upgrade your tires, typically you're going to go a little bit bigger. And if one option gives you the option to put much bigger tires on with little to no effort compared to the other,
Then you
that
bought a Gladiator.
requires a cab mount
Sure.
shop and all this extra things, like then
Yeah.
that price of tires skyrocketed.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, no, I'll give you that. It is a fair point. It's not something I've run into, right? So I don't have I just don't. I've done 33s on Tacomas in shop scenarios a handful of times and had them rub on full lock and reverse and told customers
It does. Yeah.
that's the way it is.
Yeah,
You-
Frontiers and Xterras was always the same answer. Like, well, it does.
You want 33s and you want a leveling kit and you don't want to spend more money? This is what you're going to get. It looks great. It performs really well. And yeah, when you back up and turn, it rubs. And maybe your Colorado wouldn't do that, but to me, that's a very minor thing. Now, to others, it's not. And
Yeah.
that is the point.
And for me, I was working out of it. I was using it as my business vehicle. So if I rub and it goes coming out of somebody's driveway, they're not calling me back to their house. I just look chintzy. And that's one of multiple things, but
That's-
you just don't feel good about that as a thing. for my specific deal. So
Sure.
I get where a lot of people would come from that. But to be fair, if you're not rubbing on 33s for $100, then you're not that far off of not rubbing on 35s. And if you actually do a lift, whereas on other rigs, you're going to lift it and cut and still rub, and it's just a whole. It is a measurable metric that does have some value. Now, if I was going to get something today, and I was in the market and I was really looking at it, and I was going to do for the same thing that I essentially did my Colorado for before, I would get the
Really?
Tacoma.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I wish. Yeah, it's not going to be
Back
ready
to
in
the
time.
first conversation.
It's not going to be ready in time. But I would get the Tacoma with the hybrid option.
Sure.
Because that actually also adds a ton of value. My
Yeah.
ZR2, the only reason that we didn't maintain it as our work vehicle was how much fuel it consumed. I was using a lot of gasoline, and it was not viable in our business model for me to continue to use that much gasoline. Which is why I drive a Volkswagen now that gets 35 to 40 to the gallon, and it's great. Except
And the same applies to Jeep.
It's a Volkswagen.
yeah, when I got stuck in a driveway in Sisters the other day when it was snowing, it was awful. I was doing a home inspection, and the home buyer had to help push me out of the driveway.
Oh, jeez.
I gave him a discount on this inspection because
That's nice
he
of you.
recovered me. I felt so bad.
What's your gladiator point, Luke?
It's
Oh,
bad.
you say the same applies to the Jeep. So they've been saying we're going to get a 4xe Gladiator for 3 years, and maybe
Yeah.
this is the
Yeah.
year. Diesel will be phased out this year. Hopefully, it gets replaced by 4xe.
Yeah.
But you would apply the same thing. Like I get 20 miles per gallon, but with the diesel, the fuel tank is like 18 gallons, so you end up filling it a lot.
Well, yeah, and then you have to
Plus
deal
stuff.
with the fact that you have to heat up the exhaust a certain amount for the particulate filter to work with.
Oh yeah, it's terrible with
doesn't
short
reheat
trips.
and-
Now
Yeah.
I've got a 25-mile commute, so I don't have that problem anymore. But short trips are awful.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean so if we're talking about new, which is what we're supposed to be talking about, sorry Jesse, the Tacoma hybrid does prove an interesting point.
Yeah.
And that is that it's probably because it's so new, right? Like it has the tech that is really a little bit more advanced than the others. Hopefully Jeep brings it up. Is there a Colorado
No, there's a
hybrid
4-cylinder
thing
version.
on the way? Is that a thing? I haven't seen anything
I
about
haven't heard anything about it. There's
Haven't
that
looked into it.
4-cylinder.
GM is a little not great on hybrid tech. So I mean, other than the kings of hybrid tech, the Bolt and the Volt, right? Like that's kind of
Yeah.
it.
It seems like the way they looked at it was, we'll bring a turbo 4-cylinder and it'll still get the same amount of power as the current V6
Yeah.
does, and you'll be happy with it.
Yeah, and I think
you
like
can go better
Trax and Spark and Trailblazer are hybrids, but like from a truck standpoint, it's not really a thing. But I mean, half-ton truck. They're bringing a truck that's like bigger than a half-ton. That's basically a H1.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be
Silverado.
it'll be like bigger than a Silverado, but technically a Silverado, or they're going to name it a Silverado.
Yeah.
It'll be the 19th gen Silverado, Jesse.
It's neither high nor luxurious. I don't know why you would ever want to call it a Hilux.
I will say so. I don't think that the new Tacoma looks that good. I think
Oh, I like it.
think it looks kind of weird.
Yeah.
I'm not in love with it. I think that the new Colorado looks better
I agree.
by far, but I don't. But it follows the design aesthetic of the last one to the next step, and I get that.
Sure.
But again, for me, the hybrid, that's the whole reason.
Yeah.
And they fixed the seating position. I put my butt in one,
Supposedly.
and it's like halfway in between. It's not fully.
Well, and here's the other thing is everything that I hear from every Tacoma owner is complaints about how much it hunts.
Oh,
And
the
that was
hands
with
thing.
not many gears. And
Yeah, but-
the rumor is with 8 speeds that I love that Tacoma people are in love, like just talking up to the world about how the Tacoma has 8 speeds and isn't that amazing? Yeah, Colorado's been doing that since 2014.
Doesn't the newest one have a 10-speed?
Like, come on, like even
Yeah,
even
my
the
truck's
Ranger
an 8
had
speed.
10 speeds.
Yeah.
So it's like you guys are just catching up. That's all you're doing.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
they finally got disc brakes.
Right.
So.
But
in the rear,
the
'cause the drum
rumor
brakes fill with
that
rocks or
that I've been
something.
hearing already is that it hunts still, And now
Interesting.
it's got more gears to hunt with. So have fun with that. Like,
When the
that does
front
not
axle
sound
breaks.
Great.
Or no, the
Oh my!
the diff
goodness.
explodes. No, so I do want to talk about that because Sean, Mr. Don't bring things up into discussion until we know they're true or not.
It
saw
broke.
one
I saw.
comment
No.
about how it didn't really break, and then was like, it didn't really break. See, they just couldn't get it into 4-wheel drive. So the Tacoma, there's some guys on
It
the
did
internet.
break.
And it broke. Yeah, one of them. And it's I do not point out that this is indicative of all Tacomas, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to say that Sean didn't follow his own rule and rub his nose in it just a little bit about that, because I've been talked to about this before. So there's multiple vehicles. So what happened was it was the disconnect between the front axles. So when you're not in 4-wheel drive, there's a disconnect that separates, that allows both front axles to spin independently, axle shafts to spin independently, and they won't engage the pinion. What broke when those TFL guys were driving in the ice was that connector shaft that's supposed to connect those two axles again. It's a fuel efficiency thing. It's not a whatever, but it broke. And what I want to give credit to, according to what they were saying on their little podcast, was that Toyota reached out to them.
Their little podcast that's
They have
millions of times bigger than us.
1.2 million followers on their off-road channel alone.
Yeah, they have a little podcast. Look at us, all right? Do they have boom mics like this? How many blankets do you think they got in their room? Come on.
Probably none.
Um,
Just
They
the
don't
ones
wear
on their laps so
headphones.
they can stay warm.
But they explained, in Colorado, they explained that the Toyota reached out to them, that they've had a great customer service experience, that it was likely a faulty casting on an early part, and because
They have a
they're
super low VIN number.
truck number 300 or
300
something. Yeah. So I don't consider that to be a failure of the vehicle. I think that first year stuff happens. They figure it out. They move on from there. But Sean posted this one comment from one guy and said, no, it never broke. They just couldn't get it back in 4-wheel drive. And then tried to talk like that was gospel.
Can someone defend
I
me
don't
here?
believe that was the case. I believe that he posted that as this person is saying that this is what happened.
Eh,
There was not he was giving the further information because
which was wrong.
right, fine, but it was all speculation at that point. And that's
Except-
what he was pointing out.
Well,
yeah, the initial speculation was they blew the front diff up, right?
Yep.
And I said, okay, maybe they did, but there's conflicting evidence that could say that they didn't, that they might have blown a CV, that it might be an electrical problem, that there could be all these different things.
so
And
being the
when
guy that
internet-
watched the whole
when
video.
the internet says, hey, this is blown up, right? Like Toyotas are terrible. I go, well, hold on. Like, I don't care what the vehicle is. That's not an easy, like, you shouldn't just,
Yeah.
to me, take the first, like, oh my God, it's so blown up, or it's whatever, right?
One on the internet exploded. Yeah, that doesn't mean they're all bad.
Sure. And it did break, right?
Yeah.
It blew up its differential disconnect. Like, that's something that happened. And whatever.
You never apologized. That's really the thing is.
Um,
You never recanted your statement.
Okay. Let's
made
pause
this-
the podcast for a second. I'm going to pull up the evidence.
Can you just show me a
Why don't you say that into the microphone?
No,
Sam?
I don't want to. I want to say it outside of the microphone.
No, I understand. I'm just doing it for the drama's sake. But yeah, I agree.
drama?
It's not a
Mm.
problem of Tacomas explode. It's a one vehicle broke. But what I do want to bring up, or what I do want to actually talk about, is that guy who made that post or that other comment was just like, it's not broken. They just don't know how to put it in 4-wheel drive. And that was just somebody who watched the 2/3 of the video, and then it showed them specifically, they
they tried a bunch of different things.
did a bunch of things, and they drove it home, and they were great, and they put it on a lift, and it didn't engage, and they put it on the rollers, and it didn't engage.
Well,
So
wait, that was in the
it's-
second video.
right, it was in, but
So
Yeah,
that
but
was
still.
that was
that
video
just
was
came out.
that video was out actually.
No, it wasn't, 'cause I
it was in a
just-
short. So
Okay,
they had
so
a short, but
what I want to say, hold on. What I
people
want to say
defend
is that,
things in ways that they get brand loyal, and the Tacoma guys that want to hate it will hate it no matter what,
Sure.
and the guys that want to love it will love it no matter what. And if you see one break and you say, "Nuh-uh," that's just as bad as seeing one break and saying all Tacomas are shit.
I agree with your premise.
So-
I really do. What I'm trying to say is, I when I pulled that information up. I would like to see it because I really don't remember. I don't remember what the guy said, to be honest. But in my head, what I remember grabbing out of that YouTube commentary was someone that said, hey, before we jump up and say, this is totally me just paraphrasing, right? Before we jump up and say it's a blown diff, here are some other things that could have happened. Like, I don't recall posting something that was someone that said that is not blown up. I recall seeing something that said, it might not be blown up because my blah, 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 blah had this. Like, that's what I saw, and that's what I imagine that I had looked at. And if I didn't, whatever.
It was just,
I don't care.
It was a screenshot.
Yeah, it was just a screenshot.
said.
Well,
I don't think
in the
it
screenshot of
matters.
it, I will say, because I've spent a lot of time and effort on this.
I don't
Thank you,
care
Luke.
Yeah.
that far. But what I do care about is like what Mike is saying, right? Like either side of that argument is not okay. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like you don't want to be the guy that's so into a brand that you say it can do no wrong, and you don't want to be the guy that's so against a brand that it can only do wrong, right?
Unless it's Ineos, and I think that no.
Let's not forget that Sean criticized the bed roll bar in the Tacoma
Yeah, that
as
thing
soon as it was
looks
released.
stupid.
No, it looks so bad.
So bad. Yeah, there's a reel to prove that one.
So I think on the same token, I took from it the one thing that I saw him say was they just don't know how to put it in 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, that's stupid.
And that to me, that's where I was like, wait a minute, like you're just picking one thing and choosing that.
I will say, not in that guy's defense, but just in me watching that video, I watched them and I know they're trying to make content and like they're doing way better than we are. And we're really good at criticizing other content creators, which we just
That's
talked
what
about.
we're the best at.
But like it took them 15 minutes before they like reset the truck. And I was like, come on, anybody with half a brain that drives a vehicle like this is going to try that. And eventually they did, and they probably did it way sooner than they showed because they're probably way smarter about this stuff than they actually put off on YouTube.
Well,
but it's
they
annoying.
I
They
pulled up
also
the
have
comment.
to lead everyone on as best they can
Sure.
on YouTube.
Yeah, because they
to
want
get-
to make
to
that
get
content.
clicks,
Yeah.
and they need
Yeah.
people to continue to
And
watch.
whatever.
And that's how they
So-
buy the truck so they can review it. So if they don't do any of those things, they don't get the review at all.
Sure.
The
or they
comment
don't-
specifically states it wasn't a CV. They didn't know how to cycle it out of locked mode. What I'm not happy about is the way that they make it look like the truck left them stranded in the teasers, but you watch the video and they drove out with no issues. They just couldn't engage it into 4-wheel drive. If they had taken this truck to Moab and blah, blah, blah. They talk about other things that they did.
Yeah, they talk about how they did the other challenges with it, which is
with
true.
no problems. Yeah. So, but that was the thing that I took offense to was like, no, he said that it wasn't broken. They just didn't know how to use it. And that part was already not accurate.
Sure.
Before-
think-
I have a hard time believing that those guys don't know how to operate the truck.
Sure, yeah. And
yeah, well,
that's
but
a
they're
good
also
point.
they're the chief demographic of people who are going to buy that truck. There will be more dudes like the TFL guys buying that truck than there will be guys like us. And we'll post most pictures of them. Like we'll have more videos of us actually using them and things like that. But more of those guys will be buying them. And so I get why that's such a popular channel and why it's such an applicable review, because most people are going to think we got into a bunch of icy situation and then we almost backed into a tree and they
Oh,
got
God.
terrified.
That-
It was
but that's what
watching
I'm-
that was so stressful.
But that's kind of my point, is those guys drive new trucks all, like that's their job, is to drive new pickup trucks. The idea that they didn't know how to operate it is,
silly.
pretty
Yeah.
silly.
That's a poor assumption. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. And
And they have young people that behind the cameras that come out and help sometimes, which is hilarious to watch because they'll be like, well, I'm getting frustrated. And then like this young guy will come out from behind the camera and he'll like, well, if you push these buttons and do this, no, it's just still not working. Or yeah, this is how you get it into locked mode. You have to, they had some Ineos comment where they're like, oh, I think this is broken and it won't go into, it won't lock the front locker. And the guy behind the camera sitting in the back was like, you gotta turn the rear locker on first before you can turn on the front locker.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. We got it. Well, it just seemed more complicated than it needed to be.
It's
And like I
exactly
said-
as every Wrangler has been
Yeah.
for 20 years.
And
Oh no! Don't get me started on that.
Oh,
yeah, I know. Mine,
just
my,
because you can't figure out the
can't figure
Rubicon,
it out.
I own it.
doesn't mean-
No, I own it, and I still mess it up all the time.
How do you guys not know how to use it?
You got to push
That's
the button
ridiculous.
3
Lou,
times.
No.
These two are the only ones that don't
Yep.
understand how to use the freaking
No.
lockers and those things.
You push the down button once, and you lock the rear. You push it again, and it locks the front.
Right?
But if you push the top button, everything
That
is off.
unlocks the front.
No, it unlocks
That
everything.
Unlocks everything.
No.
But then if you
Unlocks
push the
everything.
bottom one more time, it unlocks
It
the front,
re-unlocks the front.
and it goes back to the.
Oh,
yeah,
that sounds super simple.
yeah. You
Yeah,
just
it
got to
is.
push 3 buttons
literally
4
is.
times, but under like. But you can't see them from the seated position either, and there's no.
Well,
I don't
in
know.
your generation,
Yeah.
Luke's, they're back in the center console.
Yeah, and that I like better. I had
JK
the
was the only one that moved him over there.
no my
Correct?
my JL was better.
Yes, that's correct. Sorry, I was like brain froze for a second there because I realized that we're a group of people that grew up playing Call of Duty and like
I did not.
Halo.
those sorts of things, and somehow we can't figure out like a multiple button press sequence.
Not we. This
Yeah.
isn't
It is
we.
a
This
single
isn't a we
button
thing.
multiple times. Not
Yeah.
for me.
Okay,
There's
like
and a down on the button. It's
Yeah.
one button that's like a toggle switch. Is
Listen,
that hard to
up,
figure
down,
out?
left, right, R1, R2.
I got thrown into this thing, and
And then he wrecked it
and then I
completely.
wrecked it.
He dented the oil pan. He put a dent in my slider.
I only remember him
I don't know.
putting a.
Yeah, you broke my front axles.
Our pets' heads are falling off. What are we doing here?
Sean's just hard on vehicles.
Can we pick on me just a little bit
Yeah.
more?
I
Do
will.
you have anything, Colin?
I will say it was the first video evidence of his failing transmission.
Yeah.
was when you were driving it.
Yeah, we brought this up. We talked about this the other day.
Without me, I think.
Yeah, well, because you
Because
left the
he,
podcast.
so he mentioned a symptom
Mhm.
of a failing transmission in a JK,
yeah.
and I said, "Huh, I remember it doing that when Sean was driving it on 34."
But he never told me
When-
about it.
You were trying one of the optional lines in the.
Oh, it didn't go.
There was you were like, it has no go. Weird, and then you shifted it back, and then it had go again,
Mhm.
and then Mike informed me that apparently
Happened weeks later.
is a sign
Yeah.
of. But I mean, hey, you went from
like
the
6
middle of
months after
summer all
that.
the way into the snow
Yeah.
before you.
Right. Also
So you've
turns
got
out it was
time.
like a whole court low by the time I recognized the second time it had no go. So we were just once you got into a bad angle, we were dry slipping them.
was a
Quite
high
the
angle. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was up there.
to the credit of the JK, I try buggy lines pretty regularly. They don't always work. Most of the time they don't. But I try them and get into some awful positions. And so the fact that transmission had 160,000 miles, and at least I have been very hard on it. I'm not that mad about it. My new one, if it gets another 100,000 miles, I'll be fine.
There's no chance you have that for 100,000 miles.
No, I'm not
Zero
saying that
chance.
I will have it. I said if it gets
yeah,
100,000 more
That
miles.
makes sense.
Yeah. I won't claim to own it. But honestly, I don't know if I can sell it.
Yeah.
I don't think that I could get enough money out of it
Take
to
my
replace it.
Wagoneer, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I think with the total title, I don't think I could make enough on it to make it replaceable.
So
I'd have to come into some other money.
was there an after topic that Jesse had brought up after the mid-sized truck argument? Oh, it was the Tacoma front end thing. Never
Yeah.
Well, we didn't really. I ranked mine, but we didn't actually do the.
Okay.
Oh, Mike ranked
Well,
his
yeah,
too,
he
I
ranked
thought.
his.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Well, I kind of.
And I said I agree, basically.
yeah.
Okay.
I think for the most part we're in agreement, other than your Frontier.
What a weird.
You know,
Jumping
I'm with you.
Tacoma,
I like
but-
it. I think it looks really good.
I might. I might do the same thing, Sean, just because I'm not a Toyota guy. I can't. I'm just they like
Where's
Luke.
Aaron
they don't
when
do
you
it
need
for me.
him?
I mean,
I'm
yeah,
just
and-
so
It's not that I think it's bad. It's that it just does nothing for me. I just don't care about it.
it's
It's like the Ranger Raptor. I don't care about the Ranger. I'm not a Ford guy. I really can't stand Fords. And the current Ranger is kind of ugh. But
that was
you put a big engine in it and like long travel suspension and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was the start.
Yeah.
What Jesse's start was the comparison of like the Billy Badass versions.
Sure.
So the Ranger
Rubicon.
Raptor and
versus TRD.
Well, and that I qualified mine with like Gladiator Rubicon,
Yeah.
AT4X, ZR2, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I guess that's the thing that we should probably have said on the front end when we're saying Gladiator above ZR2 is literally when we're saying Colorado's ZR2, we're just calling it a ZR2. We should be saying with
The
Gladiator,
Rubicon.
we're talking about a
Yeah.
Rubicon,
Yeah,
not anything
definitely.
else.
Yeah.
We're not talking the fucking Mojave. We're
With
talking,
some shocks and a.
Well, I mean,
What?
Mojave is cool in its own way, but it's a different thing.
but it doesn't make
and-
sense.
And
Luke, it doesn't make sense.
Why is it cool?
Why is
Luke?
it supposed to be? They put the quote fast suspension on it, and it has the same motor. Is still slow.
Hey,
So
can't you get
it shouldn't.
can't you get a TRD?
Yeah,
Can't you get a TRD Tacoma and two-wheel drive?
You can get a TRD Sport Tacoma.
and an off-road.
Yeah, it's an
You
off
can
road.
get a TRD off-road Tacoma and two-wheel drive.
Runner.
Doesn't Tacoma make a Sport
changed
still?
that,
right?
Where
They
it's like,
changed from pre-runner.
I
It's
no,
the
that's
same concept.
a pre-runner this year.
yeah.
It's,
Mojave's
it's
four-wheel
Used to be
drive, so-
pre-runner too.
Yeah.
and Mojave's got a rear locker.
Right, but it's not fat. Like when your concept is that this is the fast one,
It should just
it
have,
should have
a
a
392.
It should have a 392, right?
Yeah.
It should have a 392.
Yep.
Yes,
That's
totally
that's
agree.
my point. That's where I
It should be a elephant
that-
version.
that's where it lost me. Was like when someone
Totally agree there.
that's what it was.
yeah.
I was like, well, but it's not fast. So
Well, it just
I don't
accepts the bumps more.
Yeah. I think I could make an argument for mid-level Tacoma, like versus other mid-level vehicles being better. Like I think that's where like an TRD off-road Tacoma makes a lot of sense. But I think that you might be onto something when we're talking the top of the top. That is really where Rubicon, ZR2, Raptor, those
Well-
really shine. Because TRD Pro, it's fine. It's better.
got stupid
it's got
seats.
some cool stuff.
If we were
That's
buying just like
stupid.
mid-level, like midline trucks, I would buy the Nissan hardbody
Every
with
day.
the like
Yeah.
with the boxy wheels, because they do like the new
Oh,
new
yeah,
Frontier,
yeah.
but like the hardbody style, like
right,
like
Yeah.
if I were just buying a truck to like drive to work and like
yeah, little-
haul gravel on the weekend or haul yard mulch on the weekend, like
Yeah.
I would just have the like it's kind of a low line truck. It's like an SE with not a bunch of options.
Yeah.
But it looks cool with those freaking wheels,
It
man.
looks cool with the
Oh,
little
man.
boxy, the little Lego style wheels.
Yeah.
I think my upset with the group as far as order goes is I would put the Ranger third over all of them. And it's strictly a I like the look. I've gone over this before. I like the look of them. They're very Aussie looking. That's
Yeah.
why I like the look of it.
They're international for sure.
And also, I love the concept of base model ad locker, which is not necessarily the thing for all the other manufacturers. All the other
It
manufacturers
is nice that Ford does that. You can do that on Bronco also. You can get a base model with a locker.
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that is my point for that. Like that's where I edge it on the cars the trucks that I care less about. That's
Yeah.
where it edges out a Frontier and a Tacoma
And-
for me.
Another credit to it, because I got to drive one. Aaron had one for a little while. Not any of our Aarons, but Aaron that I used to work with.
An old Ranger, right? Not. I don't mean old, but not the new Ranger.
Yeah, the new Ranger.
A 24.
No, well, do they change anything in 24?
Yeah, they're a completely
they're-
different truck.
they're-
Okay, so I've not looked at any of that.
Okay.
So the one right before that, but the 24
last
still has the 2.3 turbo still, right? I know that they
Um,
talked about never
They
changing
do
that.
a 3-liter EcoBoost in them too.
Oh, okay, so-
but yeah,
that 2.3 turbo, and I think it had an 8-speed transmission connected to it. That was pretty good.
yeah.
That for the drivetrain, it was comfortable. It had plenty of pep. It sounded fine. It
Fine.
was not great, yeah, but I was a fan of that that motor
Yeah, they're good.
in general. So
I think there's a weird thing about the new Ranger, the new Ranger, which Mike just proved, which is for whatever reason Ford is doing an awful job
I had no
at
idea.
making sure that people know they exist. Because the Ranger Raptor I saw at King of Hammers, and I had to like stop for a second and think, did I know we were getting these?
What?
And then I went, oh, yeah, I did. We talked about this once. Okay. And it's great. It's way better than the old one.
It's available?
It's much better looking truck. The interior looks, it's just like the Colorado. It just like went through this like
revamp
that really did it a lot of favors. So
how come nobody's
they're
talking
also-
about that?
They're also 10-speed, Mike.
Oh,
I think you can only get
really?
you can only get the 3-liter in the Raptor.
So that's why,
right, Luke.
That's why I like. Well, I know that the transmission, it shifted smoothly. It ran well. It was well suited to maintaining gear. And,
10R80. So
the
Same
Ranger
as
Raptor is only like
a lot of
57. I just pulled one up. So Newberg
Starts at 55.
Ford, 57 grand, and it looks good. Why are they not
I don't know.
telling people about this? Why does no one know about this?
Mike's realization that the Ranger Raptor is a
Yeah,
thing.
it exists.
Yeah. Well, okay.
So
So
nobody really knows that the Ranger exists.
We should
That's
talk about
weird.
that. Yeah. I
More
had
people
no
know
idea.
about the Maverick than the Ranger.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's probably by design somewhere, right? Like someone made the decision not to
Mhm.
spend as much on marketing on that vehicle as they did the Maverick. Which
Well,
But
It's called Cafe Standard.
like a
Cafe Average.
Raptor, where it's very limited numbers.
Well,
so they're going to sell them anyway.
here's the thing. I think Raptor, and Luke, tell me I'm wrong if I am, but I think Raptor is not production limited. I think it's like limited by the amount purchased. That's it.
I think
Just like Hellcat products. I'm like,
I think the R is production limited. I think
okay,
that,
well, that probably, yeah. And the 37 might be too.
yeah, I think like we have an R37 on our lot, and man, it's cool. But yeah, I think those are production limited. But I think the regular Raptors are like just open for whatever.
As many people order them, they'll make.
Yeah.
Which is smart on the manufacturer side.
Yeah.
Like, I understand the limited production drives the numbers up.
Mhm.
It's a thing. But like, I don't know. You make something, if you take the Dodge Stellantis motto of if you order it, we'll make it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice for
there's
profit.
less built-in loss,
Well-
or potential for loss, I guess I should say.
That always made more sense to me anyway, though, because the rare and unusual, etc. thing helps people down the road way more than it does.
I think it becomes brand recognition, right? I think Porsche, like with the GT program, it's because of brand recognition. It's because people want it. They will buy a Carrera T when it comes out, which is less limited because they can't get a GT3, basically.
Yeah.
And I think it's good for Porsche, and
Well,
it's great for the owner base. Even
at
if
the high end of the of the GT scale or whatever, people at that price point really need to feel special.
sure. Yeah.
And I've worked on that side of the business for a little while, and there's something to be said about some people paying $200,000 to $300,000 for a car and knowing that they have a one of one thing because they custom ordered everything, and overall it's one of 2,000.
Sure.
Like they really, because if you're spending that kind of money, you should it should feel special.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So that's kind of the reasoning on the high end of the production limited stuff. I think on the lower end of production limited, when they were doing, early in the Challenger or whatever, when they were doing limited production, I think it had more to do with corporate average fuel economy.
sure.
And some of that stuff has gone by the wayside or be made up for with EVs and plugins and all of that. So
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. I didn't think about that part of it as much, that they, would need to do that to bring the average up, essentially, for mileage. So that does make some sense. I think,
Yeah. But that probably makes sense, though, as well with the Ranger Raptor thing, because it's not really going to be the thing that drops the Ford EPA mileage. It's going to be right in the middle because they already have that 800 horsepower Mustang they're still pushing. And the Ranger Raptor 3-liter is like, okay, it gets 26 miles to the gallon. Like, it just is. And then all the rest of the Rangers are going to get the 2.3. I'm building one right now, by the way. And because I didn't know they existed.
Weird. I cannot believe. So, like,
I'm the guy that should have known about the Ford.
Yeah, I think we're above average users,
Yeah.
and Mike is more
Yeah.
tuned into Ranger than all of us. And
I know that it's been talked about before.
we talked about it not that long ago because I talked
But
about
it never really tips the scale for anybody.
Yeah, I was never on it, but it is.
been there.
I've just built one, and it's what It's $38,000 with delivery for the one that I would have built, and all I did was add the locker.
Wait a minute, hold on. You didn't build a Raptor?
No, I was thinking about work. I was thinking about things I would do for
That's
work.
fair. Yeah.
Go fast.
Work truck.
Get to
Yeah,
job.
you got to get to the job site quick.
for $38,000. So for the whole thing for me was I can build this in 4-wheel drive for 38 grand, or for like 32,000 you can get an all-wheel drive Maverick that better worse otherwise I would work out of that and get better mileage and it'd probably be fine. But I had no idea. I should be the guy that knows. I've been looking at the Maverick because they've been teasing the fact that they had a plug-in hybrid option that was going to be here in 24 and it never showed up and blah, 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 because that would have tipped the scale for me. I have solar at the house now, and a plug-in hybrid would be real nice for around town stuff. But I had no idea that they refreshed the Ranger.
Can we take a moment to all laugh together that there's a Tremor Maverick?
What?
Well, so, yeah,
I haven't looked at that. Hold on, wait a minute.
Tremor is like the
Awesome.
Ford package for. It's like the FX4. Like they just tarted up the FX4 and made it look better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But it's a
FX4 didn't mean
Maverick.
anything for so long. Oh yeah, it's
Yeah, you got Rancho shocks way back when.
Is there a
Yeah.
Tremor Ranger?
FX4 also meant rear locker too.
oh, did it? Yeah,
Mhm.
that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a Ranger
Like a
one,
torso
and there's an
rocker.
F-150, and the F-150 is a pretty good looking truck. Like,
Yeah.
if I was gonna,
AJ had one before his Sprinter.
oh, okay,
Bad choices, huh?
if I was gonna have a pickup truck
two
that I
bad
need to go to the
choices.
golf course with, F-150 Tremor, that's the one
Yeah, I can see that because it does pretty good at most things.
that I would never use it for. 'cause
Yeah.
all I'm doing is driving it from my house.
You like the
to
little
driving
orange stripe.
range, and I like
Yeah.
the orange stripe. That's
Yeah, all right, that's fair.
Mm.
This is in a dream world where I like golf, but
And also have more money.
that too. But if I like golf, I feel like that would happen
Yeah.
naturally.
If you're a golfer, you probably have more money.
So they don't have a Ranger Tremor.
There's gotta be one.
I'm looking at the
There
build
is-
sheets right now.
Maybe not the brand new ones, but I know for a fact
There was
I
one before.
definitely-
They did in the previous gen.
Yeah, previous gen did.
so.
But right now, I don't think they do. They have the Raptor.
But also, I don't think
But
they ever do that for the very first run of new generation stuff.
I think that's what I was gonna
It's
say.
the following-
Second and third year. Yeah.
Yeah, they
I think the
come out
Raptor
with
is the
stuff.
draw this generation year one, and then the Tremor will come out, or the Surfs Up version, or whatever they do.
Surfs Up. You talking
No, I don't
Jeep
know.
talk now?
I'm just
or-
talking about other
Like an
weird,
Australian thing.
weird.
Oh, you mean
things.
the Jeep
Yeah.
Beach?
the beach.
Life's the beach. Drive a Jeep.
Hey, that's
I don't know if you saw the Jeep Beach edition.
Oh, I don't know. I think the actual
What's coming
event
up?
Jeep Beach is coming up.
Oh,
soon.
I think it
Jeep
happened.
Beach.
I think it happened already.
I think it's
So
coming up.
this
I
one-
it's an
emailed it.
event in Daytona. It's like the biggest Jeep show on the East Coast, and they all go drive up and down the
We all are
beach in
Googling
Daytona.
April.
Yeah, it's my birthday weekend. We could go there instead.
Oh, or the NoFX concert,
Oh,
or wait, no, that's your wedding. No,
That's
I'm
my
sorry.
Oh
wedding.
yeah.
I ditch my birthday every day of the week for that, but not my
For
wedding.
Jeep Beach.
For
No,
Jeep
for
Beach.
no
Maybe.
effect.
For no effect.
It looks kind of cool, and Florida's not my favorite state, but
Mm.
Daytona is the best part of Florida, so maybe.
Oof. I don't know about that.
What else? Miami,
The racetrack's good.
The racetrack's good, but the city of Daytona is like
Daytona Beach, not Daytona. City of Daytona is
Daytona
terrible.
Beach. Okay.
Daytona Beach is
Got to have
I see.
beach in it because
It
it's
does.
the Jeep Beach.